Tony Robbins said something about if you want to, and he wouldn't be the first guy to say, if you want to increase your rate of success, quadruple your rate of failure.
Yeah.
We took that and squared it. Right.
So we doubled it.
We're here today with two absolute legends. We're here with Steve and Josh, who are creative gurus and have made their huge impact in the hospitality space. And so before I share too much, I'd like to actually hand over to you two to tell us a bit about yourself and the journey that you've been on, not just individually, but also together, because it's been a 17-year journey, right?
17 years of love.
Of marriage.
Marriage.
Okay, maybe not marriage. Yeah, go Steve. Tell us about your journey together.
Where do we start?
Well, we've probably had about ballpark 15 companies together.
Not all successful.
Which many failed. We've had a condom company. We've had a touring company, toured Aqua Sublime, Hanson, Den Kearney, Unwritten Law, Jordan Peterson, Theo Von, and the list goes on. We've had an advertising agency here and one in Japan.
Beer company.
Beer company. We did stuff like did a beer with Snoop Dogg, the first ever hemp beer called Mary Jane Mango Kush.
I love the name.
It's great. It's a great reference to what we're talking about, the weed.
And then we've got a nightclub called Pawn & Co. That's P-A-W-N. The concept is that everything's for sale at all times, like a pawn shop.
Wow, that's cool.
And that that's been great. We've got another one of those coming, which we're about to build in Brisbane. And then we've got Ballers Clubhouse.
Yeah, which is probably the culmination of the last 17 years of working together in creativity and hospitality and making mistakes everywhere. We've sort of gotten our big boy pants on and done a proper venture, which is largely expanding across the nation at the moment. We're building 6 of them, I think, in the next 12 months. So, and then with plans to expand beyond that as well. And
I mean, I think the tie-in for all this time together is commercial creativity. So we're not doing things we're only doing things we love, right? I mean, of course, there's lots of stuff on the way you hate, but point is that we're doing stuff that we love in the space that we love, and it's where that it's that thing. We're not doing stuff so we can say, "Hey, Mum, look how great our creative is." It's like, hey, it's where the commercial and the creative go together, and that's the lock for us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the greatest parts of our culture and the greatest innovations are actually found at the intersection of creativity and commercial. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the concept for Ballers and how you found that kind of intersection there, because I think it's such an amazing concept.
Yeah, sure. So do you want to talk about?
Yeah, look, I think it was back in 2019. We travelled around the world, and we were probably a little bit fed up with hospitality and what the offering was about just going to a pub and having a drink. There had to be more beyond that. So we went around to the UK, around the United States as well, and checked out a few different places that were doing this sort of competitive socialising space that we wanted to play in. And then we took a concept to a friend of ours and our business partner, Simon Jones, who used to be one of the founders of FunLab in Australia. And we took a concept that pretty much involved ping pong, really, a giant ping pong palace.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, what we realised, to Steve's point, is, yes, we've got nightclubs and great, and you get your DJs, you got drinking, and we're like, but we're at the behest of, every Saturday night, a crowd turning up. It's great. Yeah. What we wanted to have was this competitive socialising thing, which was team building for corporates, which we could sell stuff during the week and have locked in functions, locked in, the commercial aspect, and know that we had, we already knew, how many people were coming and what sort of functions that were coming, and had this whole new thing for Australia, really for adults, where you can play games against each other in a sort of fun, competitive space. Our first sort of look at a campaign that we sort of chatted about was "Shut Up and Play." And it's just you say, cool. Mate, shut up and play.
Yeah. It's so simple, right? Yeah.
But from the creative point of view, we then wanted to pop. There's other places like mini golf and these other things, which great. They're going well. Good on those guys. But we felt like it was sort of juvenile or just for younger crowd, or you only wanted to go once, whereas we want to have return customers.
Yeah, it was very transactional,
so we had darts, then shuffleboard and ping pong, and then as we go, we've built a tech company onto it.
Wow.
So now we build out all the tech. So when you play shuffleboard, we've got 4 different games, including blackjack and other ones. So it comes up on screen, and so now you've got
so
that.
cool.
And then from a remarketing point of view, you do that, take a photo while somebody's doing it right in the throes of team building stuff, and then we can remarket to them. Hey, 15% off your next one. Thanks for coming. Love you guys. Come back. Here's the thinking behind it.
I'm starting to see when you talk about the intersection between kind of creative and commercial, I'm starting to see how those things really, are the center of this. And it's also really interesting to kind of have a little insight into how your minds work. And I think it's such a fantastic way of thinking about hospitality. We've just come out of, a period of time where everyone's been at home. And, for a lot of people who are in lockdown and, COVID was a very, very slow, draining, gray experience for people. And so kind of coming out of that and now having, doors open, all this exciting stuff on the horizon, what do you think what's the response been from people to have such a different experience for socializing, now in front of them?
Well, I think with people being locked in their homes against their wills for such a period of time, that they were starved of connectivity. And a lot of our corporate customers, so a lot of the big banks and you name it around town, they had a real struggle with a lot of their team members not meeting each other in person. So we all of a sudden became that perfect
a solution.
Yeah, we became that perfect vehicle for a team building day, a place where they can build great culture amongst their workers and staff. I think just beyond that, back to the business model you mentioned before, what hospitality went through with the pandemic as well, that whole closure and then open your doors and hope people come, it's a real risk.
Yeah.
Whereas now we have a business that 70% of our business is known before we open the door. It's a great business model.
Yeah. And I think also you're not missing anything by going out. We've got DJs, we've got party going on, we've got great drinks going on, and you can play darts, you can play shuffleboard, you can play ping pong if you want. We've now introduced a ball pit karaoke as well, which is really awesome. With it's got like a what do we call it? Not called a stripper pole. What's
it's called an activity pole.
An activity pole.
Or a fitness pole.
A fitness pole. We've got a fitness pole right into that ball pit. So it's just all the fun stuff in a sort of adult way, but playful, and just maintaining, premium quality of drinks, premium quality of experience, and we're only getting better as we work out and understand more what people want, because that's why we're here in hospitality. When you realise you're here for other people and to help them connect and help them have fun, and it's like that's our core proposition. How do we help groups of people entertain themselves together?
And also people might feel uncomfortable if they're a non-drinker and go into a pub or an outing. So we become that space where you can just play games. There goes the risk of not being the non-drinker. You can just
look. Let's not pretend here that us three aren't drinkers, right? We are.
Hey, we're not giving away any secrets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, look, it's been an amazing response, and I think what we're seeing is that, like, our nightclub had double the trade coming out of COVID, or COVID lockdowns, I should say, and had double the trade. But we know that'll sort of taper off a little bit. We've been, basically had 2 years of year 12s that were like, hey, we've been locked away and now we want to learn how to party, want to party, and everyone rushed to it. We had meters for like 200 meters down the street on a Wednesday. We weren't even open on a Wednesday previously.
Wow. The
difference between a nightclub and what we've got now, I think, is that this is a real value offering as well. So as people might go out less, maybe this will happen at the moment while people are tightening the belts, that sort of thing. But we've got this value offering, which means you can still go get all the stuff you get at another place, but we've got these games offering, and it's not going to cost you more for a night out, really.
Yep. I think one of the things that you said earlier really, caught my attention. You talked about it being a 17-year journey, loads of failures along the way, loads of lessons along the way. And as you're sitting here telling me about Ballers and the strategy and, the different elements of the commercial strategy that make it such a great business model, I'm kind of sitting here curious about, all of the things that you've done along the way that have helped you to kind of see the world with this perspective. Because I think, I can imagine, budding entrepreneurs sitting here listening to this is probably thinking, great, like I want to start a nightclub, or, I want to start something in the hospitality entertainment space. Yeah. But there are obviously so many lessons that you guys have kind of experienced that have helped you to not just see it for the entertainment value of having these, having this space that you create, but also the commercial side of it. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about the journey you've been on that's helped you to kind of build a business model for this business that you think is, set it up really well to be successful?
Sure. I mean, we spoke a little bit before. We've got a sort of podcast we've started. We've done the first episode of and not released or anything like that, but it's called Josh and Steve's Epic Bizzo Fails. And it's a real focus on all the stuff we've failed at, which is just so much, endless failing. I think Tony Robbins said something about if you want to, and he wouldn't be the first guy to say, if you want to increase your rate of success, quadruple your rate of failure.
Yeah.
We took that and squared it, right? And so
we doubled it.
look, I think there's just so many lessons in the way from the commercial ones, doing business internationally, that's problematic. That can be problematic.
If done incorrectly, yeah. Also who you work with as well. You sort of learn along the way who you can and can't work with, what your strengths are. I think now, after 17 years, we sort of know where our strengths lie and where we cross over as well.
Steve knows I'll be 10 minutes late.
Okay.
That's why I book his meetings early so he gets on time.
Well, you both arrived on time today.
Precisely. So it's, I think there's, for the success that you might stop and say, hey, we did a good job, there's probably 10 failings that get you to that along the way.
And so, I mean, some of those would be, for sure, just ones where you think things like your staffing count is an indication of success. Oh, we've got X amount of staffing, fail. When we just, because we're just doing what we love so much, we weren't really focused on even paying ourselves. So, as one business, we probably could have paid ourselves 10K each a week, and we just didn't care about money side of it. We just paid ourselves far, far, far less than that. And that money had just a way of just going elsewhere. Yeah. And so I think it's also just understanding there's so many premises that, so many good books talk about better than I'd have knowledge of, but, pay yourself first, head count's not the answer. And then just understanding stuff like, systems, structures, processes and how important all those are, and understanding our gaps. Like, I definitely know about strategy and systems, how important they are, but I'm not the guy to implement the systems. I'm the guy who's got to go, right, we need to go find somebody who knows how to do it. So at the start, you might sort of feel like you want to be everything. And I think, there's the joy of just doing it all. Yeah. And now it's more about going, right, how do we make sure we've got enough money? And that's another great fail, is just not having enough money. Because, during times of crisis, like the lockdown that we were forced to have during COVID, big businesses were able to carry the weight of that debt, whereas ones that are great businesses would have been just as good businesses, just didn't have the financial might. Yeah. And so it's just understanding stuff like that, having the financial might, having the right business partners, as Steve said, shareholders agreements. When you start, we're like, who gives a shit about shareholders agreement? We all love each other. Great, you can love each other. Let's not put pressure on trust. Let's not put pressure on the person. Yep. Just have a shareholders agreement that says, hey, in the event that we want to sell out, in the event that this default happens, where does everyone sit? Let's do this while we all are eager and excited and enthusiastic. Yeah. Let's come to an agreement at this stage, because if you don't have that, we've had business partners that have, we don't really carry the weight of this as a trauma of it, but who have shafted us, who've done wrong by us in our opinion. And that's okay. That's a failure on us for not having the appropriate shareholders agreement in place and not willing to test the relationship boundary at the time we needed to.
Yeah, and I always say that contracts are in place for, not for when things are going well, but for when things aren't going well. Yeah. And you never really anticipate that, right?
100%.
But that's a really important lesson.
I mean, I'm sure you would have, your business sounds super successful, and you've done an amazing job at growing this, epic, sprawling business of 650 staff and that sort of stuff. So imagine
got a treasure chest of war stories in there. Yeah. We all do, don't
Contracts
we?
everywhere. Yeah.
And also imagine though you were just relying on like, we're all mates here.
Yeah.
But that's what you do when you're young as well in business. I think you just think you know it all and you go for it, right? And that's, as you get older, you ask a few more questions, you test out your model a bit more. Yeah. So that's what we've done. So before we got to Ballers, we went to Simon and said,
what do you think?
You've done it. You've just had a really successful exit. What do you think of this? And he made a slight tweak to our model, which is now proven to be quite a really important one, which is going from one game to having multi-game.
So people can move around the venue.
Yeah, the linger. So that's...
And you stay a bit longer because you've got more to do, right?
Yeah. Well, our initial strategy was it first 4 drinks we wanted of people's night out, and we thought, that's a success right there. But now we're actually getting 4.5 hours on average
That's
the
a lot
venue.
more than 4 drinks, I would imagine.
It's the whole thing. It's games, drinks, food, the whole lot. And
And look, that's also courtesy, like that we arrived at this point to your question before about, stuff on the way is we started with no money, right? So when you talk about lawyers and shareholders agreement, well, we didn't have money for it either, to be fair. And lots of people don't have money for it. So it's like, what things can you do if you don't have money? There's still plenty of stuff you can do. And certainly with stuff like ChatGPT and stuff, you can write in now and get a pretty, contract done. But those sorts of things are important. And because we had no money, we have to operate in a certain way. I mean, we used to have our own TV shows on Foxtel, and one of the first show we ever did was called Free Shit Men. And out of the space we'd come with no money, we were used to getting free shit. So we created a show, we're just getting free car, free house, free ass waxing, free skydive. And so we had
Which was fun.
Free Shit Men, right? Super fun.
That does sound very fun.
we were living it, right?
But back to the original point is, it's the above and beyond the lessons. We just didn't have access to money, and we didn't know how do you access money. We didn't have any rich networks of people, and so we just hustled, right?
And that, at its core, I think, having the hunger to succeed is really what drives a lot of successful entrepreneurs.
100%.
And I think everyone's journey is so different, but I'm so curious to hear more about yours, particularly with, starting from nothing. What did that actually look like for you? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the funny stuff, the TV show as well that you got.
How long have you got?
We've got time.
Starting from nothing. I guess when you're young, you just, especially in your 20s, you don't really give a shit about money too much. So we just wanted to actively do things, and TV was one thing that we wanted to do, and do some creative concepts that we thought were just fun.
Our first thing we did was we met each other, and then we were like,
How did you guys meet?
oh my God, it's embarrassing.
We
met auditioning for Big Brother.
Wow.
And then we became friends, and then we were like, hey, we're both interested in this TV stuff, but we actually would prefer to do, rather than that Big Brother thing, which is, whatever that beast of a thing was, especially at that time, we'd rather do stuff that we actually loved creatively on TV, but we wanted to do that stuff. And so we created a show, and we shot a whole pilot in 2 days, which were amazing. Did stuff like, we'd go in, it was sort of like a socially daring version of Jackass. So we'd go into a hotel and we stole a Bible from one of the rooms, right? And then we went and read and preached the Bible from Flinders Street Station, and that was our, sort of fun scene. We went to a Chihuahua convention and just turned up and pretended that we were entertainment there. And we went and sung the national anthem of Mexico.
And the irony was that they actually had an amp and the whole thing set up for us. And
Oh,
we're like,
wow.
wow.
Oh, sorry, we forgot we booked you guys, and then we sung. And my voice is so bad for
No,
singing.
it's not. It's
Give us a
good.
little.
You can give us a rendition now. Go.
I might not, but and then we did stuff like we got a free. So it was all like in free stuff. The first one. So we go to tattoo stores and we fail, and we always, when they said no, we were like, oh, fair enough, thanks anyway. And we get the next one, then we get a free tattoo, and the first tattoos we got were with Chopper Reed.
Okay.
At the top, Chopper Reed, and he was holding. I remember holding my hand, and he was sucking on a Chuppa Chump, and he said, "Hey, it's like an electric blend, bite your ass, bite your ass." And so we both got Free Shit Man tattooed on our asses.
Wow.
Oh, yours not on your ass.
No, mine's on my arm somewhere, I think, in there. So
Wow.
it's in there.
You said before about stuff that you wouldn't do again. I mean, we would do this again, but it's so dumb. Our tattoos, for instance, are so dumb, but we had joy getting them.
And I think it's also those early experiences of really building that resilience, like getting used to people saying no, and like being excited to like get back up and try again and hustle and find a solution and meet interesting people along the way.
100%.
I think it's detaching from consequence too much. People have a lot of fear that they're going to fail, whereas I think we got rid of a lot of fear pretty early on.
I think it's also that idea of like when people say no, I think it's a great thing to think about is
It's an insult.
It's also reasonable that they would say no.
Yeah.
Like we're going to asking people for free stuff. Like why should they give us free stuff? It's okay. It's not. And so it's like, I know if the word's compassion, but just understanding what somebody else is saying no.
Yeah.
You don't have an entitlement or, to get that thing. I think a lot of people are like, they get upset or they get frustrated or they get angry. And it's like, Byron Katie's got this great thing. She talks about my business, your business, and God's business. And she doesn't mean God's business in a religious sense, but it's such a powerful thing to go, well, what is your business? And it's not my business that somebody says yes or no, right? That's their business. I can ask the question. And to Steve's point, if we're not, reliant on the consequence like we're owed it, then it's a really powerful thing. If you can just go through, objectively and go, okay, well, I didn't get that thing that I wanted. Move on.
Move
what's
on.
next?
And I think the most powerful thing about that is also realizing that you have a lot of control and you have a lot of power too. So regardless of what happens around you and whether someone says yes or no, like you have the ability to choose, okay, they said no, I'm gonna choose to keep going and find someone who might say yes, or choose to
100%.
find another solution.
Well, no one handed you your success with your businesses, did they?
No, they
you went
didn't.
for it.
That's right, you went for
Got to
it.
go for it.
Yeah.
And I think if you can go for it with joy instead of anxiety and fear and worry and all that sort of stuff, you know, I mean, my brother's a very, very skilled practitioner and thinker, and and basically he's focused his entire life on how do humans think. And the biggest deficit we have in the world at the moment is people don't focus on the number one thing they should, which is how do they think? And we're only ever interacting with our own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so the sooner we get to this understanding, you're only interacting with your own thoughts. You're not actually interacting with a reality other than what's happening here. So if you pay attention to that, when somebody says no, you're just interacting with your idea of what that means. So get a good meaning about that, and then you'll have success.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. How did you learn that?
I mean, I've definitely been working with my brother for a long time, who, like I said, is an excellent thinker. And I think just in general, just paying attention to the power of the state you want to be in, and go, well, how do I want to exist on a day-to-day basis? What state do I want to be in? Well, I'm going to move towards that, and I've got responsibility to myself to do that. It's just a desire thing, right? I'd rather be existing in a quality state. So when stuff happens that you don't love, if you know that that's in your in your power to move through it as best as possible, you want that. 100%.
That's so interesting. And I feel like, that mindset shift is, for many people, the difference between them feeling like they've succeeded and them feeling like they haven't. Because again, that's, perception. Am I willing
100%.
to learn from this failure and continue to move forward to try and achieve my goal?
I've got a question for you.
Yes, hit me with it.
So if you had an extra $100 million in your bank account right now, what would you do differently?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. I knew that would be your answer.
Yeah.
Because
How did you know?
Because you've got a business that you created, which you've got joy and you're proud of. You're here smiling and enjoying yourself, just general idea. But I feel like it's the same answer for both of us. Is I don't know. I mean, we'll just do more business of what we're doing on scale, and we'd invest in more stuff, and probably we'd have a more influence to help the rest of the world out in ways that we wanted to, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, the other end of this question is, if somebody said to you, you can have $200 billion, whatever, right, in an inordinate amount, but you're only allowed to go from Holiday Island to have cocktails, you're not allowed to do any creative, any business, you're only allowed to just have a life of pure luxury, yachts and da-da-da. Do you want to do that?
No.
100% I don't either. I could not think of anything
crazy.
fucking worse.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the reason that I wouldn't is because, the joy and the excitement and the learning actually comes from every day putting yourself into situations where you can continue to grow.
100%.
And I feel like if there's no incentive for you to do that, or if there's no desire for you to do that, then it's just a pretty mundane existence, right? Like, the reason people want to escape a 9-to-5 is because their life feels like it's just running on a treadmill, like nothing's different. You're just trying to get from here to place A to place B. And I think that the power of entrepreneurship is really in feeling like you can own your destiny, and feeling like, if I want to get from A to B in half the time, or if I want to get from A to Z instead of A to B, I can do that. Yeah,
I think that's true. I also think that there's going to be a shift in the way people think about entrepreneurship. I'm aligned with what you're talking about there. And I think there's another sweet spot where people don't want to have that entrepreneurial part where they're trying to build everything, make all the mistakes and da-da-da. People can be satisfied working, for another organization. If we understand that the 9-to-5 is a bad exchange, it's a metaphor of time equals money, and that's a bad exchange if it's not done correctly. So where people go, hey, what I'm really after here is a proposition of freedom and being able to do the things I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Whether I do it as an entrepreneur or I do it as somebody who is an employee, if I can have that, and we're seeing a shift in that, right, where you can be an employee and have more flexible things happening. So you go, hey, you're not a slave to employment. You're a person who is working within a way that works for you. And I think that shift's a beautiful one. And hopefully that means that people don't go, I can either work 9-to-5 or I can be an entrepreneur. Actually scrap that. How can I look at the things I want to achieve and do with my life, and how can I make those things happen?
That's amazing. I have one more question for you both. And I'm really excited to ask it because I think it always brings out, brings to the surface the things that are most important to you. But what does having one life actually mean to each of you?
It's a bit unlucky, really. I wish I had more. Can I double down? Can I buy another one? Because, geez, I'd change a lot. One life. Great question. I'm going to use the getting older thing again. Mm-hmm. I think as you get older, you value it more. You think about it more. It's more in your forehead rather than in your 20s. You don't give a shit about one life. You don't even know. You've got 10 lives in your 20s. Mm-hmm. But now I value living on the coast near my parents. Mm-hmm. I value just working with the people I want to work with and the things I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I don't need to grab more. It's enough what I've got, and money will never sort of be the forefront of what I'm doing. It's how I want to be doing and who I want to be doing it with. Mm-hmm. So that's my answer. But I wish I had two. If I can have another life, that'd be great.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's that interesting idea of if you could choose between mortality and eternity, which way would you go? And I mean, looking at so much of stuff happening in the world, I'm like, eternity would be a long time.
It's a long time.
But I would hone my skills and kill a lot of people. Jokes, not really, sort of. But there's eternity is a long time, and I think the game of life as it stands at the moment is that it ends, and in doing so, there's a passion and there's a love and there's something to lose. And from an emotional point of view, for humanity and for each person individually, where would we be at without the end in sight? We would just be very different beings. So I think having one life is, I guess, it's just about if you're lucky enough to, and you can happen onto the idea of having as beautiful a life as you can, that's great. And that's what I'm aiming for and what I hope that other people that around me and other people in the world can do. And if not, we're all going to be dead anyway. And so don't stress too hard. You've got 100 years max.
No one gets to the end of the game, do they?
No one gets to the end of the game. So I guess, the Stoics...
Enjoy the game.
Yeah,
Stoics talk about the idea of they're all going to die, and at some stage, everything's going to be the last time we kiss someone, the last time we hug someone, the last time we say something to our mum, to our friend, to the telemarketer, whatever, right? So there's a last time for everything. But don't let that be a morbid thought. Let that be a thought that drives you towards living your life with passion and meaning. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's it. If you're lucky enough to create the thinking that allows you to have passion and meaning in one life, thanks. Really grateful for that. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's amazing. What a way to end. It's been amazing having you both. And
is that a punchline?
No.
Sorry.
We're going to have you both back again soon. Really appreciate you sharing some of these insights with us. What a journey you both had.
Oh, there's more to it. Wait, there's more.
To be continued.
To be continued.
When we come back on, I reckon we want to hear more about your journey.
Let's do it.
It's going to be a rip.
You got it.
I can't wait.
Coming up.
All right. Done. Thanks for having us.
Thank
awesome.
you.
So
Yeah,
fun.
it's great.